Ar-Pharazôn, the Golden One, sailed with many of our ancestors to make war on Valinor in ages past. He was smote by the false gods that sit in that land, and our home, the Isle of Elena, was cast beneath the waves. From that point on, the people of Númenor were divided between the surviving king's men, loyal to Ar-Pharazôn, who had stayed in Númenor's colonies in the south of Middle-earth, and so had escaped ruin, and the treacherous faithful, who fled the isle to found kingdoms among the firstborn. We are the descendants of those kings' men, the Ar-Adûnâim, and our name means the king's Númenorians in the tongue of our mother, Númenor, the tongue of Adûnâi. We have heard of weakness in Middle-earth, and sail forth from our lands to claim land for king and country. We have gathered from the many cities of our kind that lay to the uncharted south of the lands of the faithful, into a mighty host. We come from provinces as close as Be'lakor, that lie close to Umbar, or lands as far south as the vast jungles, and even further, where mountains reach to clasp the sky. Lands such as the Bay of Gan, the Gulf of Rhine, Tur Betark, the dark forests of the south, and the Bay of Usakan. All bow down to a new lord, who shall lead us to the north, to our birthright. A new king, who we hope can be a new Ar-Pharazôn and restore the rule of Númenor. For many years we have fought and squabbled amongst ourselves, seeking only the riches and gold of each other. Petty kingdoms and great cities alike burnt each other's crops and looted each other's vassals. Once, in the past, we had been united as Númenorians all, but that unity splintered when the great betrayer Sauron led the Golden One astray down the path of ruin. With the ruin of Númenor, its great colonies fractured as their lords, man and woman alike, sought to claim the crown. Alas, little but blood and ruin came of those attempts, and after many years the kingdoms realized there would be little chance of a leader with a strong claim emerging, and so agreed to an uneasy truce, each tolerating the sovereignty of the others. There was once a chance at unity, when the faithful king Taranon Fallister sought to parley with us. The many nations acted as one, and we sent a noble lady, Beruthiel, who held the closest ties that could be found to the Golden One, in an attempt to place a king's woman on the throne of a united new Númenor. For she would control the weak king and operate as the power behind the throne. Sadly, the plans were ruined by a meddling steward, and the union of the lands never came to pass, and so Beruthiel was exiled. Ironically, she returned bearing the child of the king, and so by exiling her, Taranon Fallister had guaranteed that he would never have an heir, although one named Castamir would later claim the throne as a black Númenorian. In truth, he had little relation to us, and was only a fool of Gondor that used our name without knowing its true meaning. Almost 2,000 years passed before we would be united under a single purpose yet again. A young lord named Gimilkhâd came before the annual council of the splintered colonies of Númenor and claimed he was directly descended from Beruthiel herself, and therefore had not only a claim to the throne of Númenor, due to blood ties with the Golden One, but also the throne of Gondor. Few believed his claim at first, but he produced documents and an ancient ring that proved beyond doubt the truth of his bloodline, and showed the same skill with cats that Beruthiel was said to have. He then announced that if we would grant him the throne, he would lead us to great glory in the north, and we would have Middle-earth under our dominion once more, and we would form a new, stronger Númenor. Although some resisted, most joined him, and so we assembled a mighty host and set sail north. And now we have arrived on the shores of the lands of the faithful, and we stand to await your order, my king. None know of our coming, and so we can act as we wish. 4 chief foes dominate this land. The elves, pawns of the Valar, will resist us at all costs, and likewise the dwarves, caring only for their greed, will seek to deny us tribute, so both must be crushed before our heel. The great betrayer also skulks in the land of shadow, the land of Mordor. and so he must be brought to justice before the throne for his crimes of high treason against Ar-Pharazôn. Finally, the ruling houses of Gondor and Dol Amroth must be extinguished, and their lands subjugated, and any who claims throne of the faithful must be made to pay with their blood for their heresy. For there is only one true heir, and that is you, Gimilkhâd. I am also pleased to say the kingdom of Arnor lies now in ruins, and cannot threaten us as its foe. The Witch King destroyed it long ago, and now serves Sauron in the lands of Mordor. How you deal with the remnants of that once powerful kingdom is up to you. You can ally with one against the others, or simply crush them all in one fell blow. Finally, I can say that we will be able to recruit troops from any of the human nations to which our banner flies, for our officers are well experienced in commanding men of different nations, and particularly men of a lesser blood. Furthermore, the seed of discontent still lies ripe in the hearts of many in Gondor, and with gentle persuasion and proof of our power, many there will simply side with us. May I suggest we begin our conquest therefore at Umbar, for the conquest of the great Númenórean port would prove to be a symbol of our might. And recently a Gondorian army led by a man named Thorongil sacked the city, and so only a few handful of Gondorian and Haradrim rebels roam the area. It will be an easy conquest. But now is come the return of the true king. My Gavan and Melonin, and well met indeed. I'm Adrian, and welcome back to Divide and Conquer as we begin anew as the Ar-Adûnâim. The faction was chosen because a lot of visual changes have taken place to this faction over the past only couple of weeks actually, and some more visual changes may even take place while we play through the campaign. But one notable change, or rather one missing notable change, is that the visuals here, the UI, are yet to be updated. So almost all of the roster has been redesigned, and I mean that. There's only about one or two units that I think still bear the old designs that you will have been familiar with when I played the Ar-Adûnâim last on the channel, and they, I believe, are also due to be redesigned in due course. Now, you all voted as to where are we going to begin the Ar-Adûnâim, and we are going to begin north, in the cities of Osgiliath. As many of you have pointed out, taking Osgiliath will mean we are at war with both Gondor and Mordor, because by the time we manage to sail up the Anduin River to the very Dome of the Stars itself, the forces of Mordor will almost certainly have taken the eastern bank, and it will be on us to reclaim it. So, we are just going to do exactly that. Our faction, let's just have a quick look before we jump off and head in. Gimilkhâd is our faction leader. He comes with Aru Royal Guard, a very, very strong spear unit. So not that great at killing infantry, but fantastic against cavalry. And he will hold a line for as long as you need him to. With him are Lord Gimilzor, the actual faction heir, who brings Ar-Adûnâim Armsmen, a very powerful sword and shield unit. And then the other son is Gimilthon, who comes with Baruthiel's Watch, who are now a crossbow-wielding ranger-style unit, or a ranger-style unit that has a crossbow. They're very, very powerful, and you'll note that Gimilzor comes with Abrazanim Narduzagar, and Gimilthon comes with Abrazanim Nardubawib. So they each get two of the mid-tier units to start with, but Gimilkhâd's army is generated by the game at the start. So you don't actually see his army spawn because the camera starts you about here-ish, and then it automatically moves you over to Umbar when you start playing as the Ar-Adûnâim. So you don't actually see his army spawn, but it's spawned for you basically as soon as you start the game. So these are actually all dictated by the game. All we gave him is or back in the day, were the Abrazanim Nardu Tariq. So all three mid-tier units are available. So we're going to head off to Osgiliath then. Everybody hop into Admiral Sacklethor's ship, and let's make the journey north. We also have a diplomat starting next to Umbar called Zagarakor. There he is. A Númenórean writ he carries with him, and he is a Númenórean spy. But whilst being a spy, he is actually a diplomat. Yes. So he's the one we're going to use to talk to people. And we do also get a spy, Indrazor, who starts over there. Oh, he comes with a black cat. A little nod to Baruthiel there. And he starts over in Ardumir, and we ride north. Now, I will actually do in the coming weeks, probably a week or so, a developer diary because lots of changes have actually taken place since I stepped away from Divide and Conquer, as I'm absolutely chuffed have happened. I was hoping that would be the case, and it is indeed. The Northern Dunedain, or the Dunedain as they are now known, have been set up, and all of the groundwork has now been laid for the reunited kingdom. And so I don't think the reunited kingdom is actually now that far off from being playable. In fact, it may well already be in a testable stage. I'm not au fait with the beta discussion channels anymore, as I'm not a part of those anymore on the Discord. So I don't see their day-to-day chats. All I see is the work log of what has gone into the mod, and I wanted it to be that way. I didn't want to be privy to those conversations. I just wanted to know what had been done so that I can look at it and think, yep, now we can do the next video. I can do a developer diary, for example, or we can play the campaign. So that's my involvement. Let's just keep running north, everyone. But a great many changes have taken place over the past few weeks, and so a developer diary is certainly necessary. But for us at the moment, let us turn our attention to the Ar-Adûnâim. The Ar-Adûnâim, of course, began life way back in Third Age Total War when that released as 3 or 4 units that were available to Harad. In Third Age Total War, the faction of Harad controlled all of the southern desert lands, including Umbar, and they had access to what they named Corsair units. So they got the Corsair Archer, Corsair, I think they were called Swordsman maybe, and did the Pikes exist then, or was it just the Archer and the Swordsman? I think it was just the Archer and the Swordsman. So the Ar-Adûnâim as they are now were represented by 2 units available to the Haradrim roster. And then Divide and Conquer came along and separated Umbar and Harad entirely. And the faction of Umbar was created. They started in Umbar, as you might expect, and they had 2 regions next to Umbar, which I can go back and just show you as well as we continue on this little journey of the Ar-Adûnâim. They had 2 regions that weren't Umbar, and they were this region here along the northern cape and this region down here on the southern side. You will now note, though, of course, but Galu, Umbar now controls all of this region. This is all the Haven lands. Indeed, we made that change some time ago by moving those 2 regions to here and here, Vinya Forestar and Vinya Metalmar. Now, many of you have pointed out the anachronism of naming those Vinya, which means new in Quenya, and not naming them in Ardennaic, which is the language almost exclusively spoken by the faithful, no, not the faithful, the King's Men, or the traitorous Númenóreans, as we will come to know them. By the way, I'm going to take the western half first, just because our reasoning will become clear. Without question. But also, I just want the western half first before we rile up Mordor, so we're going to cross the river here. So those regions were moved out over here, and then sometime afterward, or well, actually that came after, but Umbar was created for Divide and Conquer, and the Corsair units that they had were expanded, and at that time, if they hadn't been already, a pike unit was added, a crossbow unit was added as a Corsair unit, and then also the unit that many people will have known for a long time, the Corsair Savages. They were an early tier berserker unit. Umbar's middle tier units were made up of a mishmash of designs which carried on as their theme for a long time, actually. And they had some dependable sword and boards. They've always been an infantry faction. And Umbar proper was no different. They focused entirely on infantry, with one key exception, that they did actually get some camels. But they don't anymore. But they did back then. Their middle tier, as I say, was some dependable line infantry, but their elites really shone as very, very powerful late-game, mostly anti-cav units, really. And one of their most famous standout designs was a unit that had a trident for a weapon. I can't quite remember what that unit was called, because this is all just off the top of my head as we're making the journey up the Anduin. But they had a unit that had a trident as a weapon, which I always thought was very funny. Right, well, was that Dol Amroth or Gondor? Ah, it's Gondor. Well, we're going to be hitting them in a moment anyway, so let's kick that boat arm out. As we sail up their river, we do not want to be blockaded. We will unfortunately let them know that we're coming, but no, well, we'll have to move through on the next turn. But then after a time, it was decided that Umbar needed to be enhanced, that we wanted to put more of our own creation into Umbar, because by that point, Divide and Conquer had long been overseen by myself as the leader, and we'd been systematically going through factions and improving them, jazzing them up, as it were. Ah, there we are. Or only an average victory. Oh dear. Oh dear, the game could be over before it begins. No, withdraw from that. If he attacks us, then we're scuppered. If he attacks us, then I will just re-record it, which you won't hear, of course. So if he does attack us, we may well lose it, but we'll auto-resolve if it does. But anyway, we decided to change Umbar. We decided to really lean into their focus as the descendants of the Kingsmen of Númenor. Because until that point, Umbar still very much had a sort of odd identity, where they were sort of a half Haradrim-based and half inspired by the Corsairs, but then with a sprinkling of Númenor thrown in there as well. And it didn't really fit. They didn't have a bespoke identity. They didn't stand on their own. And so something needed to be done. And so we decided to lean into the Númenorian feature. Up until that point, the Númenorian aspect of their culture was represented through their late game units. But it didn't go far enough. I don't think. So we took the decision to really lean into Númenor, and we changed them to the Ar-Adûnâim. But then I'm not really sure how we came to the decision, but eventually we came to the decision that not only should they be the sort of descendants of Númenor, but we should also make them a horde faction who have come back to Middle-earth to reclaim what they see as their lands. Because, of course, they are the true, in their eyes, descendants and heirs of Númenor. Because, of course, at the time of Númenor's downfall, the King's men far outnumbered the Faithful. The Faithful, of course, went on to found Gondor and Arnor, but the King's men almost exclusively died, save for Ar-Pharazôn and those that accompanied him, and who now spend the rest of eternity in a cave on the shores of Valinor. So who are still technically alive, but they no longer really impact the ways of the world. And to be honest, they probably are dead by now, one assumes.
Your orders.
So we wanted to give them Gondor as their chief enemy. We wanted them to come back and be these people who saw their blood as the true blood. They are the true Númenorians. They're here to reclaim what the other Númenorians should absolutely give up to them. And so we turned them into a horde faction who have come up from the south, because the only things that Tolkien ever really wrote about other Númenorian conquests is that they also set up colonies further south than Umbar, but they're never mentioned again. And that never mentioned again gives us the nicely needed small amount of wiggle room that we can to create a faction. Holy sugar plum fairies, that's a lot of Gondor defenders. Now, if we hold off, they might attack us. We're 2-1. We're going to win this, absolutely no doubt. Gimilkhâd, we've got the full army here. But do we actually want to fight that many Gondor defenders, or do we think on the next turn they might attack us? I'm going to gamble. I'm going to gamble that they're going to attack us on this turn. And they did not do that. No, they did. Dol Amroth goes first, don't they? Gondor goes last when you play as the Ar-Adûnâim. I don't really know why. When you play as most factions, Gondor tends to go first, but they go right near the end, see? But they didn't attack us. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. They go back to lose Eastern Osgiliath, so we can't wait that out. Of course, in the vote, I listed Minas Tirith and Osgiliath as separate entities because we're very exclusively going to reclaim the Osgiliaths. But Minas Tirith, of course, is very shortly thereafter going to become ours. How long does that hold out for? 8 turns. I really want them to pull all these forces together.
Your orders, my lord.
I'm going to go one more turn and then we'll attack. So anyway, so that is the journey of the Ar-Adûnâim. They started as a couple of units that were Corsair themed for Harad. They became their own faction known as Umbar, and they were very Corsair heavy, with a little bit of Númenorian inspiration in the later stages of their unit roster. And then finally, after a while, the Umbar designation was cut altogether, and we focused on them being the Ar-Adûnâim. Although once again, perhaps a touch anachronistically, this symbol, which is now synonymous with the Ar-Adûnâim, is in fact the Tengwar symbol called Umbar. So that symbol is called Umbar, and so that's why it was given to them, I think, a long time before I joined DaC. But it shouldn't really be their symbol, because these king's men are from the south. They have no real affiliation with Umbar. They're here for all the lands of Númenor, not just the petty region they were kicked back to. But anyway, who are we fighting then? Captain Imrahil is coming in from behind with a nothingy army, and of course Boromir, who is sadly going to die in the first battle of his life in this campaign, and a whole host of Gondor defenders. We've saved it. Let's dive in. Now, I think Osgiliath has had some amendments to try and make the battle map a little stabler than it was previously, but there is always a risk fighting in Osgiliath that the game might not hack it. So this campaign might actually prove to be a bit of a dud, to be honest, because it depends very much on how well we can fight in Osgiliath. And we may need, for our own sanity, and to ensure that we actually have something to do, we may need to try and get out of Osgiliath as quickly as possible, so as to not constantly have the game crash. That's interesting that our spawning zone is inside the walls already. I didn't realise that was a thing. So our spawn and their spawn completely overlap, because they can spawn around the area of the walls and we can just spawn in the city, which means there's a very real risk we'll spawn on top of each other. I think that's been done. I think that's part of the changes that I've just tried to mention to make the the game work a little better. Now, before I set up our forces, though, these units have been adjusted and do look different. So I'm going to just line them all up, and then we can go and have a look at the new Rosadan units. Our 3 generals can come at the front 4 there, and then the elites, or the mid-tier as well, behind. So the UI haven't been adjusted yet, and I will go over the full roster in a developer diary. But for those of you who are here now, let's start at the beginning and go... No, let's start at the back and work forwards, because that makes more sense, Galu. This is the new design for the Ar-Adûnâim units. So let's just... Oh, scroll lock does nothing, does it? And I don't want to start the battle just yet, so you're going to have to put up with the UI, I'm afraid, sorry. But this is the new design. This design is created entirely by Castellan, one of the new team members of Divide and Conquer. And these are entirely his creation. No copied and pasted textures from anywhere. Even the model is created by him. So this is very much his baby. But these are the Ar-Adûnâim without an armor upgrade. This is the Nardu Tariq, the mace and shield unit. They've got very cool looking shields, I will give them that. And I do quite like the little cloth hanging down. The lower part of their armor reminds me massively of Imperial Guard from Oblivion. It looks very much like the leather version of their armour, the guardsmen that you see everywhere when you're in the countryside. I'm not sure they're actually called Imperial Guard. But then we move on to the Ar-Adûnâim Naduzagar, and this is a first for Divide and Conquer, which I actually can really get behind. There is a shield on their upper arm, something that was common and is realistic. Many of you will know that there are various suits of armour that have little shields actually welded, is that the word I would use? Plated into the armour. And these are no different, which I think is very, very cool. So that's the two-handed sword version. And then lastly we have the archer, who looks the same as the mason spear one, mason shield one. Nothing different there. They've got reds and browns going through as their colour, which is very nice. And then we move on to the Rosadan. So the Rosadan are taking a very, very similar theme. Something that has been brought to the roster is uniformity. A lot of the units now share similar visuals, and this is absolutely no different. If we move the Rosadan bowmen so that they're mixed in with the Ar-Adûnâim, you can see that they're wearing the same male coif, they're wearing the same helmets in many ways. The armour underneath, while this one, the Ar-Adûnâim's, is quite distinctly leather in its design, the aesthetic of the armour is the same for the Rosadan. They look similar. The Rosadan, though, looking distinctly less armoured, as you will note. They wear more sort of just general cloth tunics, so not as well armoured. Now, I don't think any of our units have armour upgrades, so the Rosadan halberdiers look the same, and if we go to the Rosadan footmen, they also look the same. They just have this enormous shield, which again, I'm massively for enormous shields. The one fantasy trope that I don't mind being represented in my fantasy games, although this I'm no longer, obviously, I just mean games. I like games more when they're more realistic, even if they are fantasy based. But one thing I do quite like, and I will eschew realism for, are giant shields, because I think they're so cool, even if they are hella impractical. But those are the Rosadan footmen, and now that I'm spending more time with them and really analysing them, I do actually quite like them. I think they're nice, and they don't look like anything else in DaC, so they really do stand out. It's just brilliant work. The officers looking very nice. They're almost looking Nilfgaardian, really, in there. They could stand in for Nilfgaardian troops, really, couldn't they? Well, without the swan helmets, but I particularly like the helmets because birds are a key theme throughout both Numenor, Gondor, Arnor, throughout any of the descendants of Numenor, really. Birds have always been quite highly prized for them, so it's a cool nod that they have winged feathers, but it's like a darker metal, which gives you that it gives you that fantasy trope that I think is necessary, where you can look at it and see, oh, they're wearing dark armor, ergo they're evil. It's nice to have a sort of visual indicator to denote a morality spectrum. Right, and then we come to the Naru and Aru Royal Guard. Now, this is one of the points that I'm not overly sold on, and I'm not suggesting that these are bad, not by any stretch. This is purely subjective opinion, but I preferred this visual design that they used to have. But that said, I really like that, again, there is complete uniformity. So if we take a Rosadan, let's take the Halberdier because they don't have standing in the way, and if we take the Abrazanim Bowmen and stand them there, and make them group out, and then we take him as well, you can clearly see the progression. So we've got that helmet, we've got that coif, we've got the red and brown sort of leather tabard or whatever, tunic, and then we move up to the slightly more armoured. They've got metal plates on their legs and their arms, and they're just more heavily armoured at a glance. You can see straight away that that's the mid-tier unit. And then we move up to the furthest, and now it's adorned with gold. You know that is my elite unit, but there is still that clear progression system through the units, and that I really like, and I am willing to put aside the fact that I preferred the visual design of the other unit, because I think the chain of progression is really worthwhile, and I really like this unit. The shield is amazing. If someone could actually make that shield for me in real life, please, and send it to me, I will hang it on my wall, because that is incredible. I really like it. So this is the elite unit. But we're not done yet, because we've also got the Ar-Adûnâim Armsmen. Now, the Ar-Adûnâim Armsmen, as I've said, are one of the few units that have not yet been changed. And I don't know if they are going to be. But to be honest, I would really quite like them to be, because I think they now stand out like a sore thumb amongst the progression system of the other unit. And I apologise that this is turning into a unit review, but this is the whole reason why we're playing as the Ar-Adûnâim, because their visuals have been changed. So I wanted to give it due attention. So the Armsmen have not yet been changed, and that's a comparison between the two unit designs for you all there. Speaking from my own personal opinion, again, I would say, of course, the new units have a degree of finesse to them that I'm not sure the Armsmen do have, and I think this unit is technically better. But whether or not you actually like the two units is entirely your own opinion. But lastly, we come to Baruthiel's Watch, and Baruthiel's Watch currently have this very armoured look, but a very cool pheasant-like feather on the helmet. I really like that. Let's get them to stand up. I understand from Lord of Links that these are actually due to be slightly redesigned to be given more of a ranger feel, because at the moment, as you can see, they kind of actually look like quite possibly your most elite units. Very nice adornment with the gold. And if I'm honest, the more time I am spending with these, actually, I am really coming around to these. I think these unit designs are fantastic. And that Baruthiel's Watch unit is amazing. I'm always a sucker for a unit that has feathers on it. Chuck feathers on anything and I'll be all over that armour. And I really like that this feather is not on the top of the helmet, but is instead coming off the back of the helmet. And that's just something I've not seen before. And little changes like that just, I think, look really cool. But that unit looks amazing. That is a really good unit design. So there we are. Those are some of the units we're going to be spending a lot of time with, because these are most of our early tier units, and this indeed for the moment is our entire army. So we're going to be spending a lot of time with them. And I am going to use the opportunity that the game has given me to start as close as humanly possible to the town centre, because why wouldn't you? I've never played a game, though, where I've never played a map where the spawn zones overlap, and there really is a real risk that we're going to spawn on top of the enemy, and I don't know how the game's going to handle that, but we'll wait and see. Come on, you know you can get in there. Yes, you can. Yeah, there you go. The visual changes then, we've seen most of them. Most? I don't actually talk that That's ridiculous. Most. We've seen most of them, but there are a few left to see. No, there are some changes that are still due, but because visual changes are always save game compatible, I will upload any new changes that are purely visual in design as we play through the campaign. So if anything else changes, I will add it in and you will get to see it, because that is the point of my still being on YouTube. And also because I'm keen to myself to continue playing with the mod and seeing how it grows without me, because I'm just interested to see where it'll go. But these unit designs, now that I've spent a lot more time with them, I think my initial knee-jerk reaction of, oh, those aren't the unit designs I'm used to. I think I've taken, I think I have mistaken a shock at the new designs for a dislike to the new designs. Because my first thoughts on the designs were, oh, actually, I think I prefer the old ones. But now that I've seen them all lined up and spent some time really analysing them, I am all for these designs. I really like them. So if the Ar-Adûnâim are your favourite nation, which they almost certainly are, then you will like these designs as well. Right, let's see what happens.
The enemy have brought up more men.
Oh, they're right in the town centre. Right, you guys can all fire. Let's just get in there. What the hey. You guys go forward. Go forward. You go with them. This is going to be just the most horrible slogfest. They always are slogfest, these things. Now, we've got 2 spear units, but they're not going to do anything, which is why I've actually completely forgotten about them. But you just come and stand there, I suppose. Their reinforcements are coming in from the other side of the river, so they won't be able to get to us. They've got to cross this bridge. Osgiliath was always one of the battle maps I would love to be redesigned. This bridge has always irked me so much, particularly because this bridge is possible to be made walkable, and so this one just doesn't need to be here. I've just never understood it. And just repair this one and have 2 bridges. Why would you just have 2 bridges? It's fine. I know that thematically one of the bridges should be destroyed. Indeed, actually, all the bridges should be destroyed by this point of the Third Age. But I just think, for the sake of the battle map, it's worth changing it up. Right, in you all go. Let's move up our elite units. Get them to move forward, because we probably will need them. The changes as well to the text, I don't think have yet been done. No, so we don't know what their battle ability does, and we'd need to read that on the campaign map, because those text changes haven't been made yet. Right, in you go. You guys as well, just chuck yourselves in there. Now, halberdiers aren't really the best unit to go up against Gondor defenders, because Gondor defenders are sword and shield. Halberdiers are armor piercing though, and that works in our favour. And standing at the back here with his own personal bodyguard is Boromir himself. Now, he is in amongst that rabble somewhere, because this is Boromir's unit. He gets Osgiliath veterans as his bodyguard in version 5. Oh, I probably should have mentioned that as well, but we're 25 minutes too late for that. But this is, of course, version 5. This is the latest possible version that I could get my hands on. I recorded this video on Monday the 3rd of May, and I got the files for this video on Sunday the 2nd of May. So unless there's minor changes here or there, which I don't think there have been any, this is the very latest files available. And I'm really looking forward to this. I love the Ar-Adûnâim. I like the Ar-Adûnâim chiefly because the Ar-Adûnâim's lore is almost exclusively my brainchild. Now, I don't hold dominion over the lore of Númenor or anything like that, but I mean the idea to make them this Númenorian offshoot who've come up from the far south, that was my input in terms of a lore aspect. And indeed, the names of all of the units, they were created by me, and I'm pleased to see the names have carried on. And indeed the scripting and the coding for the Ar-Adûnâim was done by me as well. So let's talk through a few of these things then. So Ar-Adûnâim itself literally means the king's men. So Ar-Adûnâim is Ardennaic for men, or Númenorians, or southern men basically. And the Ar at the start is the indicator that it means king's men. And it is pronounced R with a rolled R and then Ar-Adûnâim. So it sounds like it's AR-AR, but it's not. You just pronounce the A as an R sound. So as if there is an R behind it, but then you soften it a bit. So we are the King's Men. That is very much our faction's name. And then the Azrazair warriors, who are our actual trash units, who are not currently available. They will be once we get some buildings set up, but they don't get spawned for you at the start of the game. Azrazair, I can't actually remember what their name means. It was a long time ago that I named them, I'm afraid. So this whole segment I'm going to just keep repeating that I don't know what their names mean, because I cannot for the life of me remember. So I apologise for that. But the Ar-Adûnâim at least means King's Men, and that's who we are. I'm interested to see where Boromir... Ah, there he is. Another new change for Gondor, if you've not been following along with Developer Diaries. It was made some time ago. Boromir was finally given his proper Osgiliath armour, and he no longer dresses as a travelling warrior. So he's not in his Fellowship gear, he's in his Osgiliath gear, which is you can see in the films in the extended edition, where you get to see that cool scene between Faramir, Boromir and Denethor that shows that they were very well aware that Denethor favoured Faramir, but Boromir stood up for him whenever he could. And it's a really cracking scene that is only a few minutes that does so much to build an actual relationship between Boromir and Faramir that the film otherwise just does not have. Oh, we're sending in Gimilkhâd. I think Gimilkhâd's the melee and Gimilkhâd is the archer. Yes, I think it is that way.
The enemy are badly bloodied.
Where is Gimilkhâd,
They
actually?
have lost half their men.
Oh, he's right at the back. Let's get him closer because he's got crossbows. Right, let's do a Númenórean Warcry. Not really sure what the Númenórean Warcry does. We'll have to have a read when we get back to the campaign map. But of course, standing before us in all their glory are the Gondorians, wearing the similar helmets. That's what is good about this. And look at these two, they're practically headbutting each other. You really get to see the two different visual designs meeting and fighting on the field here, which is cool. I like that the Ar-Adûnâim still have very much a red, black and gold theme. I'm pleased that that has remained, because I think it really does stand out as their iconic visual lineup, red, black and gold. Because, I mean, black and red is very much the generic evil colouring in Divide and Conquer. Like Mordor is black and red. Everyone who's evil has some form of black somewhere in there. But Mordor, the chief enemy, is black and red. So the Ar-Adûnâim get to very much claim that for themselves by adding gold into it. And remember that as the Ar-Adûnâim, you are free to do whatever you want. So our victory conditions today, or for this campaign, are to claim 45 regions. And that is it. You do not have to defeat anyone. You do not have to hold any specific regions. You just have to come back to Middle-earth and prove your dominance. And that will win you the game. The 45 regions is the short victory conditions, and the long victory conditions are 60 regions. I've opted for short because 45 regions is a hell of a lot. And by the time you've normally got about 30, probably even 20 regions, you know you've won the game. So it's very... 45 is still a hell of a lot, and is there for the diehard that actually wants to really see the campaign through. Now, ideally, we want to take as minimal losses here as possible, of course, but we are aided in our campaign because of the decision that we took, and that may well be overturned, but in the past, we took the decision that the units that you can train from the subjugation system, which we'll discuss more when we actually own this town, but the units that you get from the Ar-Adûnâim auxiliary system are available immediately. They do not require your culture. And that decision was made because, of course, the Ar-Adûnâim campaigns are designed to be played differently each time you play them. So you can start in Umbar, you can start in Osgiliath, Minas Tirith, Dol Guldur. If you wanted to, you'd have to cheat move, but Dol Guldur. You can start anywhere you want. You are a horde faction. And to assist with that, your auxiliary system is therefore available immediately. So hopefully, no matter where you land, you've always got units available to you. Now, some of you did suggest you were a little disappointed that I didn't put Dol Guldur, I didn't put Carn Dûm, and I didn't put Rhûn or Erebor on the list as places we might start the game. But I wanted to stick to places I could sail to, because if you try and walk all the way to the centre of Rhûn and then take their capital, it's going to be a ridiculously difficult campaign. And also, I really wanted to fight against Gondor, because fighting against Gondor and by extension Dol Amroth is something that we rarely see on this channel, because I almost exclusively play good factions, which is my own failing, I know. But I really like good factions, as I'm sure you are all aware, and so they always get more attention from me, and that I apologise for that for those of you that love a good evil playthrough. But the Ar-Adûnâim gives us an exclusive chance to play as a faction that is both cool and also evil, so that we can actually show off some evil bits. But anyway, sorry, I should have sped this up ages ago, because this is always going to be a win. We just need Boromir to die, and he will be the last to go. Osgiliath veterans are very, very powerful units. They are as you've already seen, hybrids. They have a 6 missile attack, so the same as most human ranger units. They have a 12 melee, which is very good, very late game. Their defense is only 21 though, so they are a little let down in that regard. But compared to the Rosadan halberdiers they're fighting, who have a 10 defense and a 4 attack, even if they are armor piercing, they are not really a challenge for these chappies. And the veterans will cut through that left-hand side, so we need to clear out the right side so that we can rush some units round to flank them, really. Which is what we can now actually do. So let's try and get these units run around the side. Our spearmen are now holding the line over there quite nicely. They're up against territorial guardsmen, who we shall see a lot more of in due course. And there's some archer militia fighting there as well. Look at them with their spears up. Oh, you know what we need to do? Shield wall this. Oh, yes, look at that. Glorious. Stand your ground. Look, and then the banner of the Ar-Adûnâim flying high in the centre there. Even the banner's been addressed and changed as well to match with the new theme. Something I absolutely would recommend is that definitely take that banner and make it the campaign banner as well. Finally sever the ties between Umbar and the Ar-Adûnâim, because that campaign banner with the symbol of Umbar on it is the only thing left. And I think really that should be changed if it can be. Boromir has died, the first of Denethor's line to fall to our swords. And the battle is won. Yes! We've lost a third of our units, though. Disappointing. Gimilkhâd not sullying himself with the dirt and grime of battle. 118 kills, Narduzagar, not surprising there. The Narduzagar are the mace one, I believe. Oh, no. Are they the mace one? The mace one is armor-piercing, but inherently more defensive. And the two-handed sword, obviously, doesn't have armor-piercing, but it's very aggressive. I can't remember which one of those is which. I think the Nardubawib are the archers. No, Narduzagar are the two-handed sword, Nardubawib are the archers, and Nardutarik are the mace and shield. So if the Narduzagar took the top spot, that's the two-handed sword. I feel confident about that. And we shall see if I am right. Now, we are unable to exterminate because the population here is already pathetically low, so we just have to occupy. Now, what you may also be asking yourselves, and I will answer right now, and if you see anyone ask this in the comments, please do answer on my behalf. But yes, the Ar-Adûnâim can upgrade Eastern and Western Osgiliath. So as long as we grow this place, it will upgrade. So we do obviously want to try and do that. Now, this is where we meet the first problem of the Ar-Adûnâim campaign. No one has our culture. We are king's men in culture, and all of our units require king's men culture. Rosadan showing up there, and we've got Azrazaya warriors there as well. And it takes a long time to spread your culture. So what you do instead is your first building on claiming anywhere should be the conscription camp. Now, it does lower happiness, it lowers an order bonus due to law, but it does give an increase in tradable goods and a baseline income of 300 gold coins, and in Gondor gives you territorial guardsmen, Gondor militia, archer militia, and Gondor cavalry militia. 2 available of each, as you can see, and they're available immediately. No culture requirement. So we've now just got to sit here for 4 turns and then we can train some Gondorian forces. Now, that's not really going to work, though, because by the time 4 turns passes, we will be bankrupt. So we do need to actually try and rush someone else out. Diplomatically speaking, as the Ar-Adûnâim, we have no allies or enemies at the start of the game. They are a completely neutral faction. You can play how you want. The only thing that they don't... At the moment, until the ring script is overhauled, they are considered evil for the ring script. So you will be given... The ring will always appear in evil towns, and you'll be given the opportunity to take it to Sauron. Whereas, of course, realistically, the Ar-Adûnâim should be given a choice of whether they destroy it or they take it to Sauron. But it is my hope that the ring script will be overhauled in future. Something we never got around to because we never had a scripter with the ability to do something of that magnitude. And ideally, every faction should be given the choice to destroy it or hand it to Sauron, regardless of who you are, because that's the point of these Total War scenarios. If you want to play as Gondor and you've somehow allied with Sauron, then do it, and then give the ring to him, bring him back as a powerful ally. It should be up to you. So my hope would always be that that will be changed in future. But for the moment, we're going to ignore the ring anyway, so it doesn't matter. But do note, if you're playing as the Ar-Adûnâim in version 5, then the ring will consider you evil, not good. We need to make Western Osgiliath make more money, and it won't do because Western Osgiliath is a fortress. And fortresses do not do very well economically. They are military buildings. Now, the way station is the building that retrains your AOR units. It was added back into the game just before I left the mod, actually. And it only retrains units that... Well, it may have been adjusted, actually. It may have been amended. But when I popped it back in, it only retrains units that are available in 1 or 2 locations only. So if a unit is available, for example, anywhere where there are forests, that won't be retrained in the way station, because you can just take over a region that is a new forest region, like the Wold up here, and then retrain it there. So you don't need a building to retrain that, because it's not a properly restricted unit. But a unit that only comes from Minas Tirith, for example, can now be retrained at those way stations. So, but for the AA, it doesn't have a UI, because I put the building back in, but I never got around to the UIs. Anyway, I'm stalling. What I want Gondor to do is merge all of these forces into one so that we can nip over and take Minas Tirith from them quite swiftly, because the gutting of these 2 regions will hugely crush Gondor's spirits. I do want the campaign to be a challenge, but equally I'm not going to make it ridiculously difficult on myself straight out of the bat. And what I mean very much by that is, of course, I am not going to attack Mordor until we've at least secured the Pelennor fields. And I'm sure you will not begrudge me that. If I were to now turn on Eastern Osgiliath when Mordor get it, it will do very little other than to essentially assure my downfall. And if I'm going to die in 10 turns, then there's nothing really enjoyable to watch. Oh, look, it's the guy that plays Bane, isn't it? Or Brand from the Hobbit films. I can't remember his name. Famous actor now, but it's gone out of my mind. But I'm sure that's him, just with a dark haircut. Anyway, he's betrothed one of our wives, so we've got a new general. I will take that. Family tree-wise, let's have a look. We've got our Gimilkhâd married to Farazindil, and our Lord Gimilzor is the eldest at age 25. He's married to Zorzimril and has Gimilzagar and Pharazôn as his children. Note that anyone who was already in this list, their names are assigned by us. So I chose Gimilzagar and then Pharazôn, of course. Much in keeping with how kings and queens' names are actually chosen in our lifetime as well. Generally speaking, the second son is never assumed to take any kind of role within the royal line, so their name can always be a bit different, but the primary person who is due to take over should have some sort of line link with the royal line. So we've got Gimilkhâd, Gimilzor and Gimilzagar, so that Gimel theme runs through. We've also got an unmarried daughter there, Zimrafel. She's 21. She is of age, so we'll probably get an offer for her on the next turn. Inzelbeth just married Kalimetar, of course, and Gimilthon down the end there with Rothinzil and their son Zorzagar. Again, not expected to take the throne, so the name can be whatever it wants. I try to add those little touches of realism where possible, because it just helps flesh out the faction. Right, let us attack another Gondor army, and then that will conclude the first episode. I think I've covered most things. Yeah, we've already gone about the conscription camp. Ideally, if we can get Minas Tirith in the bag... Oh, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to destroy these, because we really don't need them anymore, and they just cost us money, so let's just get rid of them. If we can get Minas Tirith, though, it will be a huge boost to us. But we do not want to risk losing Osgiliath. But remember, people always cry out for this. There is only 3 ways into Minas Tirith, and there's the eastern fort there, the northern fort, and the southern fort, and each of those locations is a unique battle map. It's a request that we've had many times. People always say, can you please add a unique battle map for the Ramas gates, the gates in the Ramas Ekor. And we always used to say, it's already in the game. You can play that battle map in the custom battle map screen. Oh, Western Osgiliath hates us. It might do to leave a general behind. I'm wondering if Kalimetar comes with our standard bodyguard, the Naru Household Guard. They are in essence a kind of worse version, or a slightly better but less troops than the Royal Guard that our leader has. So his unit has 13 attack and a 31 defense. They are spear and shield. And Kalimetar's unit has 11 attack and a 31 defense, but are also spear and shield. So a very good unit, but slightly...
Your orders, my lord. Yes, my lord.
The generic bodyguard is actually slightly worse.
My lord.
And you go in there... Oh, it goes up to 70% with you in there. We'll get that Dark Sanctuary in... Oh, no, tell you what we're going to do is we're going to get that in after the conscription camp. But we need all the troops we can get to hit Minas Tirith. Oh, no, we could cheese Minas Tirith. Oh, that's so cheesy, though, isn't it? That's Legend of Total War cheese. Oh, but I'm going to do it because it's definitely the better way to take that city, because Minas Tirith is a horrible, horrible, horrible battle map. So Steward Denethor brings Gondor Spearmen, Infantry, 2 Militia. It's a really low tier army. Ours is low tier as well, but our 3 generals will stand out and shine. We need to wipe everyone off the face of this battle map. If anybody is allowed to run away, they will return to Minas Tirith and they will then turn into a garrison. If we can leave this battle with more than 98% of the enemy dead. Oh, that is cool. I didn't know the game was clever enough to do that. We are actually fighting outside of Minas Tirith. How awesome is that? Oh, and it looks so good, doesn't it? It just looks so cool. Mount Mindalluin rising into the night sky, casting that shadow over the city. That's absolutely fantastic. This game is so good. It's so... it just doesn't seem to age when you add a fantasy veneer to it, I think. Right, so Denethor's going to be coming in from over there, but the main army is only a single general, so we're not really bothered about that. So archers, don't fire yet. Don't waste yourself on the first guy. We'll just crush him. And did I get the names right? Yes, Narduzagar are the two-handed swords and Nardu Tarak are the defensive line. Speaking of defensive lines, that's what you're going to do. I'm not overly concerned with the enemy force on show here today.
The enemy have brought up more men.
Oh, they're coming in from behind us. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, we'll go with a sort of standard line formation for you guys then. You don't need to go that far afield, actually. Just stand here and do it. And archers come and stand at the back. And then you 3, if you can just rush out that guy and just get him killed off. That would be brilliant. He is a Gondor bodyguard, though, isn't he? And they have quite formidable spearmen, to be honest. With, again, if shields are your thing, then brace yourself, because this has a cool-ass shield. Again, if someone wants to make that shield for me, I'll hang it on my wall and send you a picture and absolutely give you as much credit as I can on YouTube. That is an awesome-looking shield. Easily one of my favourites in the mod. I'm thinking back to the days when the Nardu Tarak used to look like the Mongolian-inspired units that were originally for canned, and then they were recoloured and added to the Ar-Adûnâim, and they had those really cool masks. They were easily one of my favourite units. I was very sad to see them go. It looks like the enemy's trying to fall back and regroup. But as soon as we start shooting them, they'll change their minds. No, look, they're sort of flanking to hit our leaders. No, they are changing their minds and coming back around. Right, you guys sprint forward. You're our primary death dealers. Narduba will probably get more kills here today. Oh, that's an awesome looking bow. That is a swing-ass bow. Crossbows are so difficult to use. And if anyone's watched my channel for any small amount of time, you will know that I loathe crossbows with a strong and almost burning passion. I think they are a near useless unit. But there are no useless units. There are only useless commanders. And I think it's fair to say that I'm probably just out of that bracket, maybe teetering on the edge. Right, let's rain some hellfire down upon these fools. Do what must be done. Do they have archers of their own? Ah, yes, there we are. And they've got Lebanon Marines. That's cool, that's cool, that's cool. There's a captain's bodyguard coming back. You hit them head on. You come from the side. And let's get you over here. Crossbows, how we diddlin'. You're running around the back. I want the crossbows to come and have clear line of sight. Straight shots right into the enemy's heart. Let's bring them down. And standing at the back is Denethor himself, and there is his battle model. He, I'm afraid, does only indeed get Captain's Bodyguard, but he gets the Reunited Kingdom version of the Captain's Bodyguard, which allows him to stand out. But giving him Captain's Bodyguard was always a very, very... that was a conscious choice, so that he would have free upkeep in Minas Tirith, because it's very common to leave him in Minas Tirith for pretty much the whole game. And so we wanted him to have free upkeep, and we didn't have the unit slots to give Denethor his own bodyguard, and it would be a bit of it would be a touch overkill to give Denethor his own bodyguard in truth. So he just gets the Gondorian one, but we do give him the visuals, or rather DaC gives him the visuals of the Reunited Kingdom bodyguard. Right, why don't you go and help flank round with those Captain's Bodyguard? And you guys don't need to be in defensive mode.
The battle is very
You
much
can run
in our
away.
favor.
They can
Victory
charge
will
into
be
those.
ours.
How are we diddling on kills? 16%. Now remember, everyone, we need total obliteration. Everyone has to die today, except us. But the enemy must. Right, stop them from chasing our crossbows. Crossbows, I told you to run, and you've not done that. Now come out of firing at will.
Only half the enemy force remains.
Right, there we are. So come together, and then come and stand down here. You guys hit that Gondor infantry. Don't worry about the archers and the marines. Alright, and you need to come and help these with Denethor.
That'll teach him to ride to war on a pony.
Come to the back there. Turlin is gone, but Denethor still stands. Oh, this is a bad day for Faramir, isn't it? Out of nowhere, an army has sailed up the Anduin River. They've come from the depths of time, as far as the Gondorians are concerned. Not just the far south of Harad, but they've come out of the past. They are waving banners not seen in Gondor for over 3,000 years, and they claim to be the true descendants of this land. They land upon your shores in the midst of your own bloody war with Mordor, and they claim your old capital city for their own. They plant the standard of the Ar-Adûnâim atop it, and then all of a sudden they're knocking on the door of your greatest city. And you then get the news that this phantom army has slain both your brother and your father, and now Minas Tirith has fallen into their command. Faramir has all of a sudden, in the space of about a week, learnt of this enemy, learnt of the loss of his brother, the loss of his father, the loss of his capital city, and the loss of his old capital city. Oh, and to top it all off, he's now the steward that's got to deal with saving everyone from this phantom army. It's not the role that I would ask to have. And I don't envy the man. Right, let's keep smashing away if we can. 50% plays 10%. That's nice to see. It was always going to be a fairly simple victory because they do only have militia units. Look at these guys firing now. Look at that glorious form. The gold markings and etchings on the armour just looks amazing. We look like true descendants of the Niall of Elena now. Oh, look, you're standing in the way. Come and stand over here. Endure the javelin fire that you're probably going to receive and just shoot those. They don't like being shot in the back, and that usually causes them a bit of harm. But keep firing. Don't worry about the Gondor bodyguard that's hitting you. There's only 4 of them. Right, how are we doing against Denethor? He's totally surrounded. His golden bodyguard are falling. Down they go. And where stands he? Oh, there he is. He's having a fighting match with the armsman. Oh, and Gimilkhâd is literally standing next to them watching, overseeing the destruction. Look at Gimilkhâd in its glorious golden finery. He still bears the old style shield, actually. And he's just taken a few knocks from Denethor there, but he's protected. I really like the masked helmets. That's something that I would definitely recommend be added. The masked helmets are again really rare in the mod. The only masked units I think we had are the dwarves, and of the dwarves it was only the Dragon Slayers of Ered Mithrin, I think, that actually had battle masks. Alright, we cannot let people escape. You must run them down if they are routing. Oh, those Gondor infantry over there are killing them. And you can't really get involved with that. Come over here and shoot these. Don't let people run away. Do not let people run away. Surround everyone we can. Let's get involved there. Come on. Capture as many as you can.
Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press the attack.
Come on, you must be fast. Oh, no, they're going to get away, aren't they? What are we on? 92. Come on, you can do it. Capture more. It's just those Lebenins. Oh, they're going to get away. Capture at least 1 or 2 of them. No, it ends on 92. Oh no. If they had anyone survived that, they're going to take the castle. I can't remember what the actual number is. There is a percentage And if you reach that percentage, the army is considered obliterated, whether or not few of them survive. And I feel like it's about 96%, but it might be much lower. I've just never I've never really formalised what that number actually is. But the Nardubawib taking the top slot there, 195 kills. Very nice work. Closely followed by Nardu Tariq at 172, so the Macemen really shining this time. The Narduzagar only got 41, so it's interesting how it swaps around. Perhaps because this time the Nardu Tariq were up against heavily armoured units, which gives them inherently more use, as they are anti-armour in their application. But with that, hopefully, everyone cross all of your fingers. I know that you're watching this video long after I've recorded it, but please cross your fingers for me. Future viewers, reach back into the past and cross your hands and your fingers and your feet and your toes and your minds and allow us to take Minas Tirith.
We have triumphed.
Yes!
Yes, my lord.
Oh, we've come out of the ocean and we've absolutely ruined our foes. Now this time we don't care about exterminating because Minas Tirith does not upgrade, as you would expect. We want to get a conscription camp set up here as well. Can we destroy any of the buildings? Do any of them... No, we are a normal unit. Now, the only thing we don't really get is cavalry, yes. So stables don't mean anything for us. So destroy stables if you ever see a stables. All of our cavalry comes from our conscription camp, which is another cool feature of the Ar-Adûnâim, and reflects again their Númenórean heritage. Númenóreans were never known as masters of cavalry. That's always been Rohan's role. They've always stood out, and they were very much contrasted against the backdrop of Gondor, who were essentially cavalry. They're not inept in the saddle, but they're not defined by their cavalry. They've never been great cavalry masters, and we honed that further for the Ar-Adûnâim to make them really require conquest. And in fact, almost every single nation that you can get troops from using the auxiliary system gives you one cavalry unit, so that you've always got cavalry options available. We've taken the Anor Stone, which for us just gives an increase in tradable goods. Those men who are not of Númenórean descent or have long forgotten the majesty and power of Númenor will not see the Palantir for its true value and will simply use the mighty stone to gather more money for their cause. It tells us what we do, though. The elves... There we are. Having worked with the Seeing Stones for hundreds of years, the descendants of Númenor can use these mighty tools as more than just glorified spies. They can turn the power of their ancestors into improving all of their warriors against the power of evil. Yeah, so it used to give us experience bonuses, but when we gutted all experience bonuses, the Palantir also lost those as well. Now, what I would quite like to do is go and talk to Dol Amroth and get them to break their alliance with Gondor and side with me. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that, but if we head south and try and get some trade rights with Harad, if we can try and get Harad on side as well... Oh no, they're already with Mordor and Khand. Mordor and Gondor are basically going to be our enemies for this whole campaign, so this is going to very much be an anti-Mordor, anti-Gondor one. Right, Caer Andros still has the potential to be a problem for us, and there's a great many forces knocking around up there. Captain Icorian, Dol Amroth have not yet declared against us, so we don't have to worry too much, but he might hit us. But what we need is just to see if we can get these conscription camps up and running. But that will all be for future videos, because for now, that is going to conclude this first episode, an hour long, to celebrate the release of this new campaign. I do hope you've enjoyed the ramblings and offshoots about the Ar-Adûnâim thus far, and you've enjoyed the overview of the visuals that I've shown off, and that you are looking forward to this alternative Gondor campaign, is what it is very much turning into, isn't it? I certainly am, and I'm keen to see how this early attack on Gondor's chief centres is going to affect them. We'll need Caer Andros to really seal the deal, but then Pelargir will become their chief city, I should expect. I don't know where their capital will be moved to. Oh, Brethil. Yeah. It often goes central to better deal with taxes and whatnot. But for now, that is going to conclude. So thank you very much for watching, if indeed you have. And until we speak again, dear friends, Nevair Neden Perimad Melonin, and farewell.